So here we go. And when we arrive here, simply make a note. So the idea here with the practices we do on Monday is to be able to get into the body and sense what's going on. And what that does is it alerts the brain to the places in our body where we might have amnesia, physical amnesia. We may have forgotten that the inner thigh muscles actually have a function. So when we stop and do a scan, what we're doing is we're engaging the brain at a somatic level, that's a felt level, to come to the party. Because once the brain begins to recognize the places in our body that we may have forgotten to use, we can begin a practice. The brain will start being activated in that part of the body. I took a class on Friday, a Feldenkrais class, and it was a gluteus class connecting with the 3 gluteal muscles. And it was very interesting to discover where my brain had amnesia, especially in my right glute. So that was a really interesting discovery. So that's why we do these classes, part of it. And then, of course, just to have more freedom of movement. So here we are, and we're breathing and we're noticing the feet. We're noticing how we rest on our pelvis. Are we on the right side or the left side? Or maybe we're in the middle. Feeling our way into our belly. And as we breathe, noticing whether or not there is a rise in the low belly. And maybe it's more keenly felt on the right side or the left side. Noticing the shoulder blades as they rest on the floor. Check in with the jaw. And sense how the back of the head is resting on the floor. More weight on the left side, more weight on the right side. Does one part of the back of the head feel more clearly felt? So today we're going to continue our exploration into core work. And really, the core is from the shoulders all the way down into the pelvis. It's not just the abdominals, it's like a cylinder. And so being able to have access to the whole of the torso really helps strengthen the core. So we're going to begin our practice today by walking. We're going to have our blocks. So secure your blocks. We're going to do a supported bridge posture. So we walk our feet back toward our glutes. We're going to press into the inner edges of the feet, lift our pelvis, and then slide the blocks underneath and rest back down. So we're going to be doing some practices here. And the invitation is always, if you want to do these practices up off of the block, you can do that, and then return to the block as your body feels the need. We're going to start by lifting the right side of the pelvis. We're just lifting the right side of the pelvis up so the weight will shift a little bit to the left. We're going to breathe here, about 3, maybe 4 breaths. And as we're breathing, notice the engagement in the abdominal muscles, but also notice the back of the body is engaging also. And then we come back to neutral, and we're going to press the left side of the pelvis up. So we're lifting and activating the inner abdominal muscles, the outer abdominal muscles, also into the glutes. So we're noticing this, and then we come back down. Now, if you feel adventurous, join me as we lift off the blocks and then just lift the right side of the pelvis. Breathe here. If you want to stay on the block, do that. We're keeping the breath moving. And then keeping the lift, if you got it in you, now we lift the left side of the pelvis. Breathe here. And then we lower back to the block and we pause. And we just allow ourselves to settle here. Our pelvis is elevated. Let's take advantage of this by coming into our psoas stretch. So that deep muscle that travels from up in the diaphragm all the way into the hip flexors, we're going to draw the left knee in, support that leg. You can always use a strap, but find a way to hold the leg in toward the heart. And we're going to slide that right leg out. Both feet are flexed. And we settle here with our breath. And now if you'd like a little bit more, keep the left hand holding either your strap or the back of the leg. And we're going to slide the right arm above the head. So now we're engaging the upper part of the psoas. We're breathing here. The feet are still flexed. And maybe reach through that right arm. Just extend long if you got it in you. And then the arm comes back down. Relax and bring your feet back to the mat. And we come back to supported bridge. We're switching sides now. We're drawing the right leg into the heart. We're going to support that leg with the hands or with the strap. And then we slide that left leg long, flex both feet, breathe here. And a gentle reminder, this is low back 101. So doing this posture on a daily basis will really help keep the low back happy. And I don't know about you, but I want my low back to be happy. I've had a crabby, unhappy low back in my life, and it is not as fun as having a low back that feels good. We're going to slide that left arm above the head only if it feels good, only if your shoulders like it, and we're going to reach. So now we have a long stretch from the heel of the foot pressing toward the wall opposite and the hand reaching. And we're noticing with our breath and attention the length of this big muscle that plugs in the hip flexors. Very important muscle group. Oh. Breath moves. And then we're going to release. Slowly soften the body as we come back to supported bridge. We're going to come back now to lifting the pelvis. So now we lift the right side of the pelvis. Notice whether or not there's more freedom now to do this in your body. And then we come back, we release back down, and now we lift the left side. And notice, has anything shifted since we did a little psoas stretch? Since the first time we visited this posture. We're going to come back to neutral. We're going to press ourselves up, release the blocks, come back to the floor. And now notice how your pelvis rests on the floor. Let's take this into a pelvic tilt cycle. So the pelvic tilt cycle is flattening the back, chin comes to chest, toward the heart, and then we roll down toward the tailbone. When we flatten the waist, the chin tips away. And when we roll down toward the tailbone, now we have a chin tuck. You could try it both ways, see which feels best to you, tucking the chin with the flattened waist, or arching the waist and flattening the chin, bringing the chin toward the heart. Just play with it a little bit, see which feels more organic. And now we're going to deepen this by adding some shoulder movement. So when we're rolling down and toward the tailbone, what was it like to draw the shoulder blades together and really open the hands? They're tilting backward. And now we're going to flatten the waist. And we're going to draw the shoulder blades together toward each other. The shoulder caps come toward each other. And then we come back to neutral. So the added dimension here includes the legs. So when we roll our shoulder blades together in the back and the hands open, the knees open a little bit. And then when we roll down toward the tailbone, the shoulders are coming together, the chin toward the chest, and the knees touch or come toward each other. So now we have a sense of opening and closing. Play with this a little bit. Let your body feel free to explore. Which way am I doing this? Are my knees open? Are my knees touching? See which feels best. For me, it feels best when my shoulder caps are coming together for my knees to come together. It feels best for me when my shoulder blades are lifting a little bit off the back of the mat for my knees to open. See if that's true for you. And then we pause and notice how your body rests on the floor now. Here we go. We're going to do some block work now. So we're going to bring the block, one block to each side. I'm going to draw in, I'm going to start by drawing in my left leg. And then I'm going to take my leg across the body and bring that block right underneath my knee calf. So I'm in a twist, but it's supported. And so I'm letting myself soften here. And maybe, just maybe, it's going to feel good to turn the head to look away from the knee. And maybe the ankle of the top leg is resting on the lower leg. Maybe it's not, but just allow the body to soften here. Notice whether or not in the hip joint, in the glutes, is there any way that you're trying to hold the body up? Can you just soften and let the body relax down? And as we do this, you might notice that the jaw starts to relax. Taking the right hand, we're going to slide it underneath the inside of the left leg, and we're gently going to draw that left knee up toward the right shoulder. Any amount, no strain, just a nice stretch. Now we're going to take the left hand, bring it to the outside of the left leg, release the right hand, and we're going to open the leg, come back to center, release the foot back to the mat. Press into both feet, lift into bridge. Then slowly lower one section of the spine at a time to the floor. And now let's take that stretch to the other side. So we're going to draw the right leg in toward the heart, and then we're going to take it across the body and rest it on a block. And I have the block at the highest elevation I can. Now you have two blocks, so if one side, if you need a little more, you can always stack a block on top. You may have to hold it if you have two blocks. But just allow yourself to settle here. And maybe the head turns to look to the right if that feels comfortable. And you'll notice a tight little muscle in the glutes. I'm kind of pointing around the area. This is piriformis. It gets really tight, pinches the sciatica, does all kinds of things, pinches the sciatic nerve. And so this is a stretch that really helps that. But notice, is there any way that you're still trying to lift the pelvis up? Can you settle down and soften into this posture, breathing and noticing all of the area in your body that is feeling affected by this stretch? That's giving the brain a clue. Bring the attention here. I want these muscle groups to be part of the story of how I move. Yeah, let's bring the head back to center. We're going to take the left hand now, slide it under the right knee, draw that right knee up toward the left shoulder, any amount. The foot can just hang out. You could flex it if you want, or you could just let the foot hang out. And now we bring our right hand to the outside of the right leg, drawing back to center. Release the foot to the mat. Feet are about sits bone width apart. Hands can rest next to the pelvis. The feet walk back toward the glutes. We're going to press up into bridge here. So come on up with me. Any amount, lifting the pelvis, maybe tipping the chin just a little bit away from the heart. Breathe here, 3 breaths. And then slowly lower one section of the spine at a time. We come back to the floor and we're going to rock gently right and left. And then we're going to draw our knees in toward our heart. Support the legs. You can use a strap here or hold on with your hands. And we're going to circle around the low back in one direction. And then the other. Feet return to the mat. We're going to float our arms up, palms facing. On the in-breath, we touch down above the head. On the out-breath, we gather both knees into the heart. The in-breath, feet to the sky, touch down arms. And the out-breath, we gather the knees in, lift the head and the heart, and look between the legs. And we return back to the mat. Arms float up. On the in-breath, we touch down. On the out-breath, we gather both knees into the heart. The in-breath takes the feet to the ceiling. Flexed feet, touch down arms. The out-breath takes our hands behind the knees. We lift the head, the heart, look between the legs, and return to the mat. Arms float up. The in-breath is a touchdown. The out-breath gathers the knees. The in-breath, feet to the sky, touch down arms. And the out-breath gathers the knees. The head, the heart lifts. And then we return to the mat. Walk the feet together so the insteps touch. The arms float out to T. We're going to tip to the right side first. Keep the feet in contact. Keep the knees together. We end up with our feet stacked on top of each other. This is another twist. If it feels good, the head can turn to look toward the left hand. And maybe, just maybe, it'll feel good to lift the left side of the pelvis just a little bit more. Feeling the whole stretch up the side body into the shoulders. And one more breath. Head comes back to center. Keep the knees together, keep the feet together. Roll back to center. Feet stand on the mat again. Arms still at T. Feet are touching. We take ourselves to the left side now. Feet are stacked. Knees together. Maybe the head turns to the right. And maybe the right side of the pelvis lifts just a little bit more. Head comes back to center. Keeping the knees together, the feet together, we roll back to center. On the in-breath, roll down toward the tailbone. On the out-breath, flatten the waist to lift both legs into the heart. Find a rock, a roll, a circle, or a spiral that feels good here as we bring this part of our practice to a close. Feet return to the mat. We enter our time of Shavasana, our final resting posture for today's practice. Maybe the feet stay standing on the mat. Maybe they slide out long and the feet fall open. Find your version of Shavasana that feels good and settle in for a couple of minutes of rest. Today's thought is from Rumi. Even after all this time, the sun never says to the earth, "You owe me." Look what happens with a love like that. It lights up the whole sky. I invite you to gently begin to deepen your breath. Drawing the breath fully into that cylinder, the container, the core of the body. Feeling the breath moving into the fingers and the toes, we gently make our way to one side and press ourselves up to seated. And we open our arms wide to gather all the blessings that already exist, and we draw them in appreciation and gratitude into our hearts. And together we all say, Namaste.
Namaste.
Did anybody discover anything in that practice today that was a surprise?
I discovered some kinks in my neck.
Yeah?
Oh,
And so where were you in the practice that you started noticing that?
roll over.
Oh, when we took our leg across the body?
Block. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Turn our necks.
Yeah. So did that resolve itself? Because if it starts, oh, good. Oh,
It
good.
did. Yes.
Oh, good.
I didn't know it was there until it started popping.
Woo! Surprise!
It feels much better.
Excellent. Glad to hear that. Anybody else? How is the being on the supported in a supported bridge on the blocks and then lifting one side of the pelvis and then the other? We did that a couple of times. Did you notice that there was more ease the second time around than the first time? Like maybe more elevation in the pelvis? Anyone besides me?
Yes, I did.
Okay. How was that for you, Dick? How did that work? Because I know that you're got the hip joint stuff going on. Was that a challenge?
No, it felt good.
Oh, good. I like that. I like that it felt good. And it looks like Marilee's out. Well, thank you for being here today. We'll be together on Wednesday. We're going to do some chair practices on Wednesday, keeping up the getting a little warmer as the season warms up. We're going to do a little more movement, and chair practice seems like the thing that we get to do.
All right.
All right. Appreciate and love you all. We'll catch
Thank
up
you.
another time. Bye for now.
Have a good week.
You too.